Hello, Freedom Fighters. This is Jeremy Beelan from REI Freedom. Today we are doing a podcast interview recording live on our Facebook group at the Off Market REI Freedom Fighters Facebook group. But we have a great guest today. I'm super excited. He's one of our students in the REI Freedom Small Coaching Program. And we're going to talk today about how he went from doing nothing in real estate to his first deal closed in under 90 days. We're going to talk about some of the challenges, some of the learning lessons, and some of the great experiences and see where he's going from here. I'm super excited today. Hope you guys listen to this podcast, watch this video. There is going to be tons of excitement and tons of value. And I'm going to introduce him right now. And his name is Josh Biernat. Josh, welcome.
Great to be here, man. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Well, Josh, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, my name's, like you said, is Joshua Biernat. I grew up in a relatively small town, not super small, in Virginia. I live in Albany, New York, the capital district around here, and been looking into real estate the last 4 years. I got in through the Rich Dad Poor Dad portal, and last year I was thinking, man, I'm going to be in the same place next year if I don't do anything. I'm going to have zero rentals. I'm going to have zero real estate. And so, just through a conversation with my dad, led me to meet you, and here we are today.
That's awesome. Now, what do you do for work for your W-2? You don't have to get too specific, but what do you do?
Yeah, so I work at a very large national bank as just as a banker, so sales
Okay,
role.
okay. And you're married with kids, right?
Yep, yeah, I have a wonderful wife and two girls. One's 3, and then one is turning 5 months tomorrow.
Wow. So you joined a coaching program not too long ago. You're a full-time working dad and husband. You got two kids, very little at this point, and you still found the courage and time to build, invest into coaching and start your real estate journey. That had to be scary and it has to be tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of one of those like bet on your things, bet on yourself things. And I've had like this drive, this desire. I tried other things that didn't really turn out the way I wanted them to. And really it just got to the point where it's like nothing's going to change if nothing changes. And so I
Yeah.
have to take this leap of faith. I have to, pull the trigger on this thing. And you know my dad, and he talked about the coaching program that you and Dan have, and I was like, done. We're gonna do it.
It's awesome. What made you decide to go with wholesaling? Because there's obviously a lot of different niches out there. Why wholesaling?
I need to make money. I
Good reason.
need to make some money, man. And it'd be great to have a rental, but if one rental may not, pay any of my bills. It might just pay for itself. So I need to have a skill set that at any time I could activate and generate income.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, investing into the coaching program, you have to invest into marketing for generate leads. There's a cost investment into starting this journey. That's a pretty scary bet on yourself. Was it really hard for you to pull the trigger on that, or were you just like, no way, I'm gonna do it no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, there was some hesitancy because it is scary to pull the trigger when you're, spending money on things. But I recently was doing a different kind of business kind of thing, and that kind of got my feet wet. And so I just treated it the same way as a business. And I was like, yeah, this is the cost of doing business, and so I have to do it.
Now you knew about what wholesaling was. Now you've only been in the program a little bit more than a few months. You're still relatively very new in this industry. Um, would you say that you've what you thought it was and what it is, are they the same? Does it seem different, harder, easier, more boring? What would you feel like now that you've had like 4 months in the world of wholesaling as opposed to what your original thoughts maybe going in were?
Yeah, no, completely different. And in a good way, it's a lot more like compartmentalized. So there's like the initial marketing part, and then dealing with sellers, and then after that, it's okay, marketing the property, and then getting the closing. It's kind of like those, you could put those in 4 stages, however you want to do it. But for me, that helps me attack it because I just have to attack one at a time. And so for like learning the whole process and going actually through it, man, like such a great learning experience, and then also a huge confidence booster as well. It's not necessarily how I thought it was going to be, but now that I've gone through it, it's actually exciting. Like I'm really excited for the next one.
Let's go. All right. So, a lot of people try to do this journey themselves, but you decided to invest into a coaching program. Why a coaching program rather than just like watching YouTube University, reading some books, and trying to figure it out on your own?
Because you already made all the mistakes I don't want to make, and
That's
so I get
true.
to
I
learn from
still
you.
do.
I get to learn from you what not to do, and
Yeah.
when I'm telling you, it's such a fast track to success. That's literally what it felt like. It's just like, okay, do this next, and I just committed. I'm just gonna do whatever he says, and that's what I
Right.
did, and
Right.
then got a deal. And so it's like just do whatever he says, follow it through, and there's that component there where now there's a relationship to where I can reach out to you whenever I need something.
Yeah.
I hit you up text, you're very available. I reach out to you, you tell me what to do, you give me advice, and it's like I wouldn't have that. I would have to start all over when I could build off of someone else's success.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That's why I still have coaching in my personal business today for myself and for all what I try to achieve because it is the fast way to success. And obviously, you found that the coaching program, we believe in giving you actionable steps to achieve like this result of getting your first deal and getting up and running. We're not teaching you everything at first. So there's still a lot that you don't know. And almost that ignorance is kind of a blessing because there's so much to learn that you can get analysis paralysis. So I really just want you focusing on the steps that are going to drive revenue first, which really kind of has resulted in you getting your first deal closed within 90 days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like during the process, I would reach out to my dad and he'd be like, ask me questions like, oh, I don't know, we haven't gotten there yet. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was just like, man, I'm just doing exactly what he tells me to do,
Yeah.
and he gives me the information when I need it. And it's
Yeah.
perfect. I
It'll
don't
all
get
come in time. It'll all come in time. There's so much to learn, right? But
yeah.
it can be overwhelming. There's so much to learn. So all that matters right now are the things that you're doing, right? Which is talking to sellers, generating leads, going on appointments, signing contracts, building your buyers list, and then getting better at those each cycle through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yesterday I was looking in the back of my car and I had a bunch of signs that I haven't filled out yet, for finding cash buyers, and I was like, I got to get on that because I've been kind of slacking because I've been following up on leads and stuff. So when you weren't lying, when the calls start coming in, it's hard to not get busy just answering the calls, but you got to keep building that sellers list and the
Buyers list.
pipeline. Yeah,
Yeah,
buyers list.
and you found out, and that's a good segue, firsthand why the buyers list is important. Now, a lot of people in this industry believe that there's things called like reverse wholesaling, right? In the virtual model and stuff like that. So they'll go out and find a contract, then they try to go out and find buyers. I don't like that model because I feel like when you're in a position of weakness to the buyer, you basically now become a motivated seller, almost a distressed seller, just like the person you got the contract from, right? So you have this contract, you're like, holy smokes, I have to find somebody to buy it. Please just take it. I'll take anything you can give me for it, right? That is a motivated seller. We don't like that business model. We want our buyers competing off of these deals. But in order to do that, you have to have a large volume of cash buyers competing on your deals in one specific area. Now, in your first deal, you did a pretty good job building a cash buyers list, but you saw you still didn't have a lot. You were able to navigate through it, but imagine what it would have been like if you had 20 people looking into that property instead of the handful that you had, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk about this deal because there's a lot to learn from this. You did a fantastic job. I mean, you closed your first deal in 90 days, which is exciting. I want to talk a little bit more about that as well, the excitement part of it. But you learned so much along the way. And I feel
Hmm.
like people listening to this podcast, watching this video today, can learn from your journey. So if you could tell us a little bit about how you got the deal, why the deal came to fruition, what the deal was, and we'll start with that.
Yeah. So the deal came through direct mail. And it was a very warm lead. A seller, great person. She's very nice. Ex-husband passed away 3 years ago. Was a hoarder, left the place in shambles, painted it very odd colors. And so she had been reinvesting her own money into the property and she ran out of money. And so she gave me a call. And it was a very great meeting. Knowing what I know now, I would have negotiated a little differently, and I guess we'll talk about that here soon. But it ended up being able to come to a price that was great for her, and she was very motivated, and so basically willing to sign the deal there, and then I took that to my buyers list and blasted it out, and then we closed the deal. So I don't know which part you want to, because there was a lot of
Yeah,
mistakes along the way.
we're gonna
So which
we're gonna
part do you
break along the way. All right. So the
want?
lead came in through direct mail.
Yep.
Um, you use REI print mail, so it's one of the proprietary lists. So there was no niche list or specific list that came off. It was just distress. Why did she decide to call you as opposed to a realtor? Do you know?
Yeah, so she had a realtor friend, and that was something that I asked her, because it always confuses me when people don't do that. And she said pretty much that, it's just not, she doesn't feel like it's presentable, and she was kind of embarrassed to
Yeah.
actually have people walking through, and she just wanted to sell, get it over. She didn't want to have showings and do all these things. And there was a lot of it, kind of embarrassment that went with it. So she was just ready to sign the deal and get it done.
Okay. So when she calls in, we provide you an incoming call script. Did you follow the incoming call script on this lead? Do you remember verbatim?
Yeah, I followed it until the end. Well, I can't remember if I asked her if we came to the right number, if she'd be willing to sign that day. I don't remember if I asked her that part, but pretty much I was glued to my computer to that PDF, that whole call.
Good, 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 good. I love it. I love it. So then you set up the appointment, you go and see her.
Mhm.
Walk us through what that appointment looked like. Did you just go in, start talking numbers? Did you go in, just start looking at the house? How did you handle that appointment?
Yeah, so I went in, introduced myself. She asked me a little bit about who I was. We toured the property, took pictures, and then we went to the kitchen because there's no furniture in the place. And we talked and discussed kind of like what she was looking for, what she needed. And that's kind of how we got into the conversation about price. And she was having a really hard time setting a number. And this is one of the big things that I learned. And she originally asked for 200 was on the phone, but when I got there, saw the place, like she was completely like, yeah, forget the 200. Like, what do you think it's worth? And that's where I messed up because I didn't lowball, I didn't go down low. I went to like 180 and or 175 or something like that. And then I was like, how do you feel about that? And she said, well, can we do 180? And I said, sure. And we signed the contract. But going back, I would have gone a lot lower because in that moment, I could tell that, well, one, I should have gone lower because of the value that I was bringing. Um, and then also she was in a place that moment where I could tell she was going to sign the documents no matter what. She was ready to be done with this house.
Okay, so what was the ARV on this property? Do you remember?
Around 300.
300. Okay, all right. So I mean, at 200, you're already 33% below ARV. But you said the house still needed a lot of work. Was it still loaded with all the stuff she had as a hoarder?
No, so she had emptied out most of it. There was just one room that
Okay.
had some junk in it, and the basement that was a full gut. So
Okay. So there's still quite a bit of work left. So you, as a newbie, excited to get your first deal. It's scary to anchor low, right? You're trying to get the price out of her. She wants to know what you do. You want to anchor low, but you're like, I don't want to mess this up. I'm just going to try to just get the deal done, get it under contract, take my money and run. Was that kind of the feeling you were feeling at that time?
yeah, yeah, and I was also scared to like scare her away. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I had this thing in my mind, and I've kind of gotten over it now through enough meetings with sellers. But this idea that, oh man, if I anchor too low, they're going to tell me, get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
It never happened. Never
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And I love the anchor low technique with adding humor for that reason. So a lot of times, like when I used to go on appointments, I'd be like, if I try everything to pull the price out of them, and I've tried all the different techniques, and they won't give me a price, right? And I just say, well, listen, I'm an investor. I can give you an offer, but it's going to be super low because I'm putting myself at a lot of risk here. There's a lot of uncertainty here. I want to get as cheap as possible because I want to make as much money as possible. If I had it my way, I'd be giving you $1 and walking away with the property right now, right? And obviously, we've made a great connection. We seem to build good rapport. I don't want to upset you by giving you an offer because a lot of people sometimes will just say, you get the heck out of my house, or start throwing things at me. And I don't want to be like going home with bruises and cuts. I don't want, how am I going to explain that to my wife and kids that I got beat up by, some people at their house today by putting too low of an offer, right? And they kind of just laugh. I just do a very different plays on that stick. But they're always just like, no, no, that's fine. Just do, what do you do? And this is what I've learned from Never Split the Difference. So if you guys have not read Never Split the Difference, you have to read that book or listen to that book. And Chris Voss talks about how to anchor low. And that feeling of the anchor, right? The number should be so low that it makes you uncomfortable to sit. Like, it's absurdly low. We're not trying to lowball them. At the end of the day, we're going to reach an agreement that mutually works for us, right? But we need to try to get them low to have them come a little bit closer to where we want. So in your situation, you could have been like, think about a number that would make you super uncomfortable. 100,000, 120,000, right? And they'd be like, no, that's crazy. That's way too low. Okay, all right. Well, I'm an investor. I said I want to make as much money as possible. If that's too low, I can't pay 180. Does it make sense for us to find a number that works for both of us somewhere in between where we both get a little uncomfortable here, or probably not?
Hmm.
And they're going to be like, yeah, okay. Well, if I can't do 180, you can't do 120. Is there a number that feels better for you? I can't guarantee that I can do it, but what are you thinking? Right. And eventually you probably come somewhere around 140, 150, maybe even 160. But, that $20,000, as is a lot of money. And, the business, it costs a lot for marketing. It costs a lot to generate these leads. There's a lot of time involved. You're providing a lot of value for her. She doesn't want to go with a realtor. So obviously top dollar isn't her main objective here. Speed, convenience, and getting out from underneath it at a cost that makes sense for her is really what she's trying to do here. And that seems like that scenario would have worked really well there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Initially, when I was talking to her, I thought I should say 150, but then in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, that's too low.
Yeah,
And I've grown from that, but I really and I had to go back to her because of and I don't want to get too far ahead, but I had to go back to her to negotiate the price again after the contract was assigned, just because there wasn't enough difference. And I thought, oh man, I can get it back down that low. And the hesitancy that had built up towards that, I really learned my lesson. It's an expensive lesson, but I really learned it. It's better to have that hard conversation at the beginning than
sure.
after you already walked through with some buyers and have a signed agreement.
And let's face it. I mean, you're a man of faith, right? You're a religious guy, right? So
Mhm.
you're a dad. You got two young kids. We want to do right by people. We don't want to be these people who are sleazy investors or feel like we're trying to take advantage of people. So that's where our limited mindset and our conscience comes in. It prevents us from wanting to go a little bit low. But in this situation, you really should have gone lower, but you were afraid for, would she get mad at you? Will you screw up the deal? Afraid from your limited mindset, afraid that maybe you were doing the wrong thing, right? Maybe taking advantage. So there's all these things going on in the back of your head. However, if you came in at 150, you guys maybe would have settled at 170, which still would have been a great deal for both of you guys.
Yeah, fear definitely got in the way. And maybe this is too intense, but I walked away thinking, that fear robbed my family that day. And so I
Yeah.
don't ever want to walk into a deal with fear again because fear robbed my family.
Yeah. I love that. And that's a great, great thing to tell people. Fear has robbed my family because fear is the reason that prevents us from even doing this business to begin with. And fear helps prevents us from like getting stuck in these limited mindsets in the fear of like the bigger deals, the more deals, the success, right? Some of us, like myself included, I've had fear of like, you know, you know, what does it look like if I am successful? Do I even deserve to be successful? Right? We have all these different fears and limited mindsets. So, story for a different day. All right. So you learned that you made some mistakes there. You felt like you should have anchored low, but you got the deal done. So, in our process, once you get a deal under contract, you're blasting out to your buyers, and we're going to do what we call an inspection walkthrough, which is more or less an open house, and you're going to have as many buyers as you can go to this property for a one-time showing, right? How many buyers did you have on your buyers list at this time?
Around 80 something,
80 something. What do I
70,
tell you?
70 something.
And what should you have as a minimum as far as I'm concerned?
150.
Okay, so we're about halfway there, but 80 buyers is a lot. A lot of people say, wow, I only have 5, 6, 8, 10 verified buyers. You had over 80. And with 80 buyers, how many people came out to the inspection that day?
3.
3. So knowing what you know now, what are some of the reasons for the slow or the small turnout, in your opinion?
I didn't lock the deal low enough. That's
Yep.
the big one. So it didn't drive as much traction. I marketed, but I did not market efficiently. I did not blast and use all means of communication for everybody. So that's another one. And then the third reason, I don't know if there's a third reason. I think
Okay.
those are the ones.
Well, just not enough buyers, I would say would be the
Yeah,
third
yeah,
thing.
that's the third. Yeah,
Yeah.
not enough buyers. Yeah.
Okay, so knowing what you know now, obviously we talked about blowing it up. What do you mean as far as blasting out, being more efficient? What are some things, technical things you could have done to explain to the audience listening that would improve that process for you going forward?
Yeah, so I email blasted everybody, and then I also put on social media. But since then, I've joined like probably 20 other local real estate groups. So
Right.
I did not blast those groups. And then when I sent the email, I did not follow up with the email until like the day before. And when I followed up, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I didn't see it. Where is it at?" And some of it was in their spam. So if I had followed up with all those buyers, through text message, even phone calls, and then the day before did the same exact thing, I know I'd probably generated more traction.
All right, so you got 3 people going out. How many buyers do you have on your buyers list today, Josh?
I'm in the 90s. I'm still working on it.
Okay. All right. Because you told me earlier in this recording that you have the signs in the back of your car,
I
right?
do.
So
I
we
found him
don't want to
yesterday.
get ourselves in a situation where we're locking up a deal later today and only having 3 people show up to inspection, right? We want 30 because when you get
Yeah.
30, that's what drives the price up. And that's how we create these bidding wars. And that's how you get those big spreads from the buyer side of things, right? And we want to do that. So you had three buyers show up that day. What did they talk to you? What did they say? What did they when they were going through the property? How did that experience look like for you and them?
Yeah, so I could tell off the bat that there were two experienced buyers, one inexperienced buyer. The most experienced buyer ended up being the final buyer of the whole process. And what I realized is, okay, I need a bigger list because not all the buyers on my list are experienced. Because the experienced ones took down the deal, and it was a deal. It was a good deal.
Yeah.
And so it means I need to find more experienced buyers who are comfortable taking down deals like this. Some other ones were unsure about, if they can make any money or whatnot. And so that was my big takeaway. They did talk to me. It was good. I got, one extra buyer out of that.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, it was great.
That's why, like, I tell you 150 cash buys, but I really want you thinking 1,500 cash buys. 80-20 rule applies here, right? 20% of that 1,500 are going to be like real legit buyers, where the 80% they come and go, tire kickers, other wholesalers looking at daisy chain, fake buyers, whatever it is, they're never going to perform. So 20% of 80 is a lot different than 20% of 1,500, right? 20% 1,500 now is giving you like 300 active buyers. And not only do we want a bidding war, but sometimes we get these outlier properties, maybe just on the outlying side of the areas that people buy, could be a little bit of a quirky house, could be just a weird situation. And if you have a large amount of buyers, even those deals that are quirky, you can at least find 1 or 2 buyers interested in that property. Whereas if you have small buyers that say, like, this doesn't fit my buy box, I only buy in this area, this type of house, and that's it, right? You'll never ever be able, and you'll get a deal like that, and it's a deal, but you can't move it because you don't have enough buyers.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely felt that pain.
Yeah, I'm sure. Me too. That's why I teach you guys. All right. So you get 3 people, one person. Did they all 3 put in an offer, or just one person?
Two of them did. One
Two
put
of them.
an offer in like 20 grand less than asking. And then the ones who end up purchasing the property put it at asking.
Okay. And how much more was your asking price over your contract price?
5 grand.
5 grand. So you have it under contract, ask for 5 grand more, you get asking price, and you're like, all right, I'm actually going to sell this. That's awesome. I only have 5 grand. I was hoping for more, but I'll take 5 grand because it's still pretty freaking awesome. But what did you decide to do from there?
Yeah, so I called the seller, and what ended up happening is on the day that I went to the property, the seller was actually there before cleaning, trying to make it look nice or whatever, and the garage ceiling had fallen through.
Oh boy.
Um, yeah, there was like a leak in the roof above the garage. And so I used that and I called her back and I said, "Hey, like we weren't expecting that because we legitimately weren't expecting that." And I was confident that I was going to get a price reduction. I thought I was going to get a significantly lower price reduction. But that's a lesson learned right there. And she went down a little bit more for me there.
Okay. And what did you end up signing this deal for? How much money?
Yeah, 10 grand.
10 grand. Now this deal is closed. So you officially been paid 10 grand on your first wholesale deal.
Oh yeah, I have the check downstairs.
Woo! Me too. My very first one, 5,000 bucks. I keep it praying.
Oh.
Now, listen, 10 grand's great. That obviously pays for your investment in the coaching program and a lot of that marketing and everything else. So basically, puts you in a situation where you're, out of the red and into the black. But what is the most significant part about getting that check for you, Josh?
For me, oh man. So confidence that I could do this, that was a big thing, that I could actually do this. Um, and then also, just knowing that as I continue to do this and get better and better and better, I'll never have a time where I can't make money.
Right. That's right. Because you now have a skill set that
Yeah.
you know how to find distressed properties off market and turn that into cash, straight revenue for you and your family. And it
Mhm.
was when Shelly and I met Ken Clothier a couple of years ago. We went out for made him in San Diego because we paid for him to coach us. And we've had a lot of success at this point, but we were still living from a place of fear. And he said, guys, you're never going to be broke again. And we're like, what do you mean? Because, we came from very, very modest backgrounds. And if you know my story, I've been broke a bunch of times, too many times. So I live in a fear of being broke and poor. And he said, no, you own it. You now know a skill set. I put you anywhere in this country. You're going to be able to find a distressed property, wholesale it, flip it, whatever you could do. You know all that skill set. 99% of the population out there watch HGTV, wish they knew how to do that, will never do that. But you now know how to do that, and you're going to get better at it each time you do it, which is pretty freaking exciting.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that for me, it was reassuring because it's like no matter what, I could always put food on the table. And then also like the confidence is big because this is something I've wanted to do, and it's always been a want, but now it's actually reality. I've done it.
That's right. That's right. It's real. It's not just something other people have done. You, my
Mm.
friend, have done it. Now, you're in an attorney state. So if people don't understand what that means, you don't have title companies up there. You work with attorneys. And I've been wanting you since day one because I have a lot of experience in the great state of New York. That is not an easy state to do business in. There's a lot of opportunity there, but challenging attorneys can be, navigating attorneys, I should say, can be very challenging. So in New York, you have your attorney, a buyer has an attorney, the seller has an attorney. You have three attorneys all trying to see who's the biggest and baddest attorney in this negotiation, trying to make things happen. And I told you this, you're going to have to navigate a lot of this. You saw this right out of the gate on your first deal, the challenges of the attorneys. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, before I even got to the deal, I had challenges because my attorney didn't email me back for 5 days. And so I said, okay, forget this guy, and
Uh,
found a different one that I should have went to my realtor to begin with, who's a rock star, and she had this great attorney, and I've been working with her ever since. She's absolutely fantastic, and that's key is where I'm at is having a good attorney, and so she does fantastic, and yeah, I had to call the buyer, the seller, excuse me, a couple times and say, hey, can you please talk to your attorney? Can you please talk to your attorney? And then on top of that, the property was in an HOA. And
oh,
so we were waiting on the president of the HOA to get back from vacation just to end up him sending an email that said that the sale can be processed.
Right.
So we did probably 2 weeks
So
just for that
you
email.
think, so how long do you think this, when you got under contract to close, how many weeks do you think you lost waiting for the HOA and attorneys just to get this ball rolling?
3.
3. So you could have closed, if you were in a title state like some of these other states, you would have closed 3 weeks earlier,
Yeah, yeah, I really think so. I think it would close in 10 days, to be
10
honest.
days, which is amazing. And despite all this, you still closed under 90 days.
Yeah, I locked it up August 9th and I closed it at the end of August. So
Wow.
definitely before September. So
It's amazing. So $10,000 in your first 90 days of wholesaling. 90 days before, you're like, I don't know anything. I'm taking a leap of faith. 90 days later, you have a $10,000 check. You have confidence. You're building off of it. You learned a ton from how to, set lower, anchoring low with negotiations. You learn that you need to be building a bigger and better buyers list because not all buyers are real. You need to do a better job communicating to your buyers and marketing your property because not only do we market to sellers, we're marketing to our buyers, and we should be working both ends of our business, the sellers and the buyers, to build both of those all the time as much as possible equally. You've learned a lot, and you made $10,000 in the process.
yeah, yeah, I made so many mistakes and I still made 10 grand. It's pretty
You
incredible.
still made, yeah, 10 grand. So where do you go from here? Like, now that you've closed one deal, what does the future look like for you now?
Yeah, well, I'm going to sign a contract after this today, so that's
Let's
exciting.
go.
We're gonna go get that signed, and then probably gonna look at some other properties later today from somebody I messaged on Facebook Marketplace. We'll see if that turns out. But yeah, just onward and upward. Just trying to keep on building my buyers list, and then as these calls come in, just discussing these properties with these sellers, going on appointments, and just trying to get 1% better every day.
It's amazing. I love that. Love it, love it, love it. So, Josh, for people who maybe are relatively new like yourself, or maybe want to get into this but haven't, what do you think are some of the things that you'd like to share with the audience from your learning experience to help them prevent some of these mistakes? I know we talked about them, and maybe some of it's, going over the same thing, but can you provide some advice and guidance from your small journey this far?
Yeah, yeah, coaching, 100%. You have to, I would definitely recommend coaching. Um, I can't imagine the amount of mistakes I would have made without it. So, because I know the amount that I made with it, and
Yeah.
still, we're still moving forward. We're still growing. We're still learning. We're still, hitting great markers of success. Did my first deal. That's amazing. And I didn't lose any money. I didn't get sued. I didn't do anything illegal. And so
That's good.
all that, all those worries, especially living
Yeah.
in the state of New York, all those worries come to play. And, being able to actually accomplish something, I could not have done it without coaching, without you and Dan. So truly thankful for that. But I would advise anybody who's doing this, they have to get coaching, because I'd rather pay the price up front for the relationships, for the skills, and then also to avoid the mistakes, rather than pay 2 to 3 to 4 times that later because of the mistakes I made.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I talked to a lot of people, obviously, that that I'm vetting for our coaching program. A lot of them been like, I've been doing it on my own for 6 months, 9 months, or however, and they still haven't got a deal. And I remember when I went through my first coaching program late in 2016, and we hit the ground running with marketing, first of January 2017, and we got our first deal within 90 days, which was a 5K check I just showed you a little earlier. But going through that program, I just remember being like, wow, there's so much to this that I didn't know. And I thought I knew everything, but I was like, if I wasn't in this coaching program, I don't know, like some of the stuff I probably would have never figured out. And I have no idea how I would have prolonged that. So, we paid $5,000 for that coaching program back then. We got $5,000 for our check. We were still in the red with our marketing spend, but we went on that year to build the foundation of something great. And look at where I am today, right? 450 plus deals, teaching amazing people like yourself, which is a blessing. But it would have never started if I didn't join that coaching program all those years ago. I spent the $5,000 and got me my first deal, which again, the 5,000 was great, but the confidence and the power of belief that you just, build off of that. Now, like I could hear it in your voice, like you're going to sign this contract today. You're going in these appointments with more confidence, and that confidence, it doesn't come across as arrogant. but you know your worth. You know you're going to get better. You know what you're trying to do, and you know that fear will always be there, but it's going to get less and less and less with each deal and each appointment, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think you said foundations for success, right? First deal is great, but I'm kind of more big picture, right? So thinking about the big picture and like, wow, where will I be if I keep being consistent over 5 year period, 10 year period, 15 year period? What is life going to look like?
I love it. Well, I can tell you it's going to be littered with success. Whether you're still living in New York to be determined, but that's a family decision. And but you're going to do great. I know after this year you're going to have a foundation very built. I'm curious to see where you go in your personal life here, as far as your everything else we talked about prior to this recording today. I think you're going to do tremendous. I'm super excited that you chose us to be part of that journey, and I can't wait. So you're going to go lock up a deal today. When you lock up that deal today, you're going to put it in our group chat so you share all your success just like we all do there. And you're going to set up an inspection. You're going to market to these buyers a lot better. You're going to be much more efficient with it. And you're going to try to get as many more buyers between now and that inspection as possible, right? We don't want 10 grand. We want 20 plus on this one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, bigger and
Bigger
better.
and better. Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you so much for being on this podcast today and allowing us to share your story. I hope everybody listening really understands that it's all about a massive and perfect action. You need to be consistent with your marketing. You got to get some great guidance. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw up, and that's okay because Josh said he made a ton of mistakes, but he still made 10 grand when it was all said and done, right? And there's going to be some deals that don't come to fruition. He's going to lose those, but that's just the way it goes. We're going to get onward and upward and better each time through. But none of that happens until you take the first step. So massive and perfect action, always be marketing, always be learning. And as Josh said, get 1% better every day. That's all you can do. So thank you so much, guys, for listening to this podcast today. If you do want to learn a little bit more about our coaching program, reach out to me and get an evaluation call with me. You can go to reifreedom.com/apply, and we can book that discovery call, see if we're a fit for you or if you're a fit for us. Until then, guys, I'll see you around. See you next week.